Today, artificial intelligence writes, answers, sorts, recommends, and sometimes watches. And behind every machine, an old question returns: who is responsible when the tool becomes intelligent? Isaac Asimov asked that question before us, not with Silicon Valley labs, but with stories of robots, empires, and scientists trying to predict the future. Asimov did not only invent worlds, he popularized a way of thinking: faced with technology, do not panic, but set rules, look for consequences, and ask who holds the pencil. Before Asimov, many stories saw machines as laboratory monsters. With him, the robot became something else: a moral mirror, polite, logical, and sometimes more consistent than its creators. In 1942, in the short story Run Around, the famous Three Laws of Robotics appeared. They seem simple: protect humans, obey, and preserve oneself only if that does not contradict the rest. But Asimov's point is not that these laws work perfectly. On the contrary, his stories reveal their flaws: misunderstandings, conflicting goals, incomplete orders, unintended consequences. That is exactly our problem with today's AI. We cannot simply write one magic rule. We have to understand uses, economic interests, blind spots, and the humans who delegate too quickly. To understand where this perspective came from, we have to go back to the beginning. Isaac Asimov was born in 1920 in Petrovichi, in the emerging Soviet Russia, then arrived in the United States as a child with his family. In Brooklyn, young Asimov grew up between school, books, and his family's candy and newspaper store. There, he devoured science fiction magazines, the cheap pulps that shaped his imagination. He studied chemistry at Columbia, earned a doctorate, then taught biochemistry at Boston University. In Asimov, the writer and the scientist were never separate. One gave images, the other imposed rigor. In the 1940s, he published Nightfall, then the first Foundation stories. He imagined a fictional science, psychohistory, able to forecast the movements of very large populations. Today, that idea resonates with big data, predictive models, and algorithms that claim to read our behavior. Asimov reminds us of an essential limit: masses are easier to model than individuals. After the launch of Sputnik in 1957, Asimov turned heavily toward popular science. He wrote to explain again and again, as if a technological democracy needed citizens capable of understanding. That lesson is very current. If AI transforms work, school, media, and creativity, then the issue is not only to have better models, it is to have a society that understands what it uses. In 1964, Asimov projected himself 50 years ahead toward 2014. He imagined flat screens, remote communication, domestic robots, automated cars, but also persistent inequality. What stands out is not only that he was sometimes right, it is that he almost always linked technology and society, comfort, work, education, boredom, and the distribution of benefits. Asimov was also a rationalist humanist. He believed in knowledge, debate, and humanity's ability to correct its own mistakes. But his optimism was not naive. He knew systems could go off track. That is why Asimov's robots are not really prophecies of metal. They are thought experiments. What happens when an abstract rule, clear on paper, meets the confusion, urgency, and contradictions of the real world? In our present, that question applies to chatbots, drones, recommendations, hiring systems, and scoring systems. AI is not moral by magic. It inherits the goals we give it and the data we feed it. Asimov's paradox is that he made robots reassuring while showing that perfect safety does not exist. His machines obey, but humans formulate the problems badly. We must also see the shadows. Asimov remained a man of his century with personal and cultural blind spots. Telling his story today is not making him an oracle, it is using his work as a critical tool. His great intuition remains powerful. Technology is never only an object, it is a promise, a fear, an economy, a culture, and a human decision disguised as a mechanism. Isaac Asimov died in 1992, before the public internet, before social media, before ChatGPT. But his questions arrive intact in our present. What do we want to automate, and what must remain human? Asimov's answer is not a law engraved in metal, it is a method. Tell the future in order to judge the present better, and never let machines relieve us of thinking.